There we go. We are almost live. Boy, thank you for doing this, buddy.
Hey, thank you for the invite.
Well, there we are. We are on episode 4 of Patriots Alumni in the Huddle, and we're pleased today to be joined by Stanley Morgan. And Stanley's sponsored by the Sullivan Group, uh, led by former Patriots alumni John Andreoli, covering all of Patriots alumni with their risk management and insurance needs. Did you know John Andreoli also and the Sullivan Group has sponsored our Football for You program in Worcester for a number of years? He's pretty centered there in Worcester. Actually, John is the head football coach also at St. John Shrewsbury and has had a lot of success there. So Sullivan Group and John Andreoli, thanks for sponsoring us and my pal, my friend, Stanley Morgan. There was nothing prettier to see us slugging it out in the pits, trying to run the ball, and then watch Stanley streak on a fly pattern and Grogan hit him about 20 yards downfield. We sure shortened up a lot of drives with Stanley Morgan in the Huddle, that's for sure. Stanley, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Oh, it's awesome. So, we could, where did we start with Stanley Morgan? 1977, was drafted in the first round of the Patriots out of the University of Tennessee. I think you're from South Carolina, though. We used to call you Geechee a little bit, so you were one of the South Carolina kids that went over to, somehow you got by Clemson and South Carolina and went to Tennessee. But Stanley was confused a little bit when he got to Tennessee, I understand, as to whether he's going to be a running back or a wide receiver, and we're sure glad he turned into a wide receiver. Stanley, tell us a little bit about your experiences at Tennessee. I can only tell you there's only a couple of times I've been there, and both the times as a broadcaster. And before the first quarter was over, I had Rocky Top memorized.
I'll tell you, that's Rocky Top number one. I enjoyed it coming out of high school out of South Carolina, easily South Carolina, as a matter of fact. People might not remember this, but when I came out in 1973, I signed with the University of South Carolina. And I was able to get out of that signing because South Carolina had just went independent. Mm. If they'd have stayed in the ACC, I would have had to go to South Carolina or I would have had to forfeit a year, which I didn't know at the time. But after being recruited so heavily by South Carolina and Clemson, I was sort of glad for it to be over with, and I had some time to really think of what I wanted to do. And I knew deep down inside I didn't want to go to South Carolina, and I wanted to go to Tennessee, basically because I felt that if I could go to Tennessee and I made it there, that would give me a bigger chance of getting to the NFL. And that was my bottom line, was that I wanted to get to the NFL.
You know, we talked to Mike Haynes, was on with us last week, and I feel privileged and honored for having been teammates of, a Hall of Famer like Mike Haynes. He and I were drafted in the same year. The following year, we drafted you and Raymond Claiborne. We were in a process, and Mike and I discussed this too, of really accumulating some great talent under Chuck Fairbanks. When in '73, you can go back to that draft where they drafted John Hanna, Sam Cunningham, and Darryl Stingley in that '73 draft. And then they sprinkled in enough veterans around us. We mentioned Steve Zabel and Bob McKay and George Webster and guys like that came on board to give us young guys a little bit of experience and some of that veteran presence. But we were right in the throes of, I think, creating a hell of a dynasty, and you were certainly a big part of that.
Yeah, I felt that way too when I was drafted by New England. The only thing that I could remember about New England was when y'all lost in the playoffs, the Raiders.
The year before.
And I was trying to tell Miss Morgan where we were going, and she thought we were going to London.
Thought you needed a passport.
But, yeah, that's right. She started crying because we didn't have passports.
Too funny.
I felt like we were on the verge of doing something big in New England. I felt like we were putting together a pretty dynamic team.
Well, and there was no question about it. And it wasn't like we were a run-happy team, although we set records in 76 and again in 78 rushing for the season as a team, which was really kind of weird because we never had a 1,000-yard rusher. Sam Cunningham had 1,000 yards in 76, but we had 3 or 4 running backs all around the 700 yards in 78. But we could also throw the ball. We were a very well-balanced football team. We could throw it long and we could throw it short. We had Russ Francis in the seam and those hook zones, and then you over the top of that. And Steve Grogan with his ability to get the ball downfield. I just remember breaking the huddle after we called a pass play, which I hated pass protection. I mean, backing up in front of large, angry people. I would rather come off of the ball and drive them off the ball. So if we were going to throw it, and as painful as pass protection was, we were better get a first down because we could run for 10 yards.
Yeah.
So anyway, but then in 79, speaking of bringing some veteran talent in, we got Harold Jackson on the team, and
right.
And you and Harold catching over 1,000 yards each that season as wide receivers. That was awesome to watch.
Well, it was, and we had a great time doing it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we were the first duo to do 1,000 apiece, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think any other team had a duo.
You might be right.
Went over 1,000 yards in the same season.
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right. See, we're all.
Yeah, I was talking to Harold about that. He said he doesn't remember any team doing it. Now I definitely haven't heard of any team doing it since.
Well,
so I think we were actually the first.
You think about wide receivers or teams that could have. You think about Cliff Branch and the Raiders, but there wasn't a 1,000-yard receiver next to him. You think about those like Lynn Swan and John Stallworth with the Steelers. I don't know if they did it before you guys did it. So
no,
we'll call it. Let's claim that record then, Stanley.
We can claim that.
As we should. No question, as we should. Yeah, that was a special season for you two. I'll never forget. You came up. I know that you had met Troy Brown when Troy passed your number of receptions record with the Patriots.
Right.
You were on the sidelines, and he came over, and you congratulated him live at that game. I remember it. You probably didn't have an awful lot of opportunity to visit with him. You came up for an event that we had at the stadium one off season. I invited Troy Brown to join us at that too, and I'll never forget you guys sitting together, and he may have passed with you. You caught 534 passes as a Patriot or something of that nature, and he caught just enough more than you to pass the record. But you caught passes, and your yards per reception was phenomenal. Troy's, he was great at what he did, no question about it, not taking anything away from him. But his average yard per catch was way lower than yours. And I remember sitting there telling the story about you and Harold catching 1,000 yards, the two receivers catching 1,000 yards, and he asked you the question, how many receptions did you have that year? And you
I had 44.
Yeah.
And I think Harold had 42.
I thought maybe I think Harold caught maybe a couple more passes than you, but like 48, and you caught 44. And when you told that to Troy Brown, you could see the calculator starting to go in his brain a little bit, and he said that's like 24 yards a catch, and you said, yep, that was about 24 yards a catch, and he was absolutely flipped out about that fact, you know. And I seem like I'm talking too much, Stanley, so shut me up when I'm going. I'm so proud of you and so proud of the way that you played. But you know, you take a guy like Randy Moss, who played about the same length of time as you did. You had 14, 15 years in the league, and I think Randy had 13 or 14. And everybody said, there's a guy that can stretch the field. Well, he had 15.8 yards per catch in his career. You, 19.2. I think that's a record for the length of career. You know? Canton should be knocking your door down, brother.
Yeah, well, you know, after a while, I gave up on that, but my wife is still pushing for it, and I'm proud of her that. But I look at some of the guys that are in the Hall of Fame that are receivers, and the numbers just don't add up for me. And like I said, it took me a while, but now I'm just going with the punch. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Well, you tell the lovely Mrs. Morgan if she needs somebody helping and be a cheerleader, I'm all for it. And I bet we could get a whole band of our brothers together and make this happen somehow.
Well, she's gonna be in touch with you about that because she's on to some big stuff right now, and she's diligent. She's working the phones, and she's getting all our friends involved because there was I think there was a senior that was going in, and that senior this year is going to be oh my goodness, right on top of my head, from the Dallas Cowboys. Drew
Pearson.
Drew Pearson is going in, and I was number 2 behind him. So he's been out of the league, I think, 30 years. So he's going in next year as a senior.
Okay.
So we're trying to get me on the ballot for 2022.
Well,
my wife is working on some stuff, so.
Well, tell her to get in touch with me.
She's really been out there pushing for me, so I got a big fan.
Well, tell her if she needs petitions or if she needs some knee breakers, we're going to go make this happen somehow, by hook or by crook. I'm telling you. You know, and the only difference between some of those guys in the Hall of Fame and you, it can't be Pro Bowls. You went 4 or 5 of those. It can't be length of time as far as a career. 14 years as a wide receiver, that's phenomenal. You know, I think the only difference is you didn't win a Super Bowl. Maybe that's the deal. You know.
Well, I think that has something to do with it, and I think it has to do with the success of your team.
Mm.
And one in particular, you think of Pittsburgh. I mean, they were a great team at that time.
Yeah.
And so, but Swan and Stallworth, their numbers don't even come close to mine. But like I said, they played on a great team at that time. You know, and we were becoming a great team, but we were always in that iffy land.
Right.
Oh, so.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, if it's stats and if that's what it is, and you certainly don't have to back up to the pay window on this deal, and you don't have to make an apologies to 19. And you take a look at your early years in your career, the first 5 or 6 years in your career. You went. I've just got the stat sheet in front of me. It's not like I'm a smart guy. You had 21, 24, 22, 22, 23 in the first 5 years in the league. So we started running the ball. Your best was that year that in '86 after our '85 Super Bowl, almost 1,500 yards and catches. But man, oh man, it's just anyway. We'll get off of that for now. Just know that you've got an awful lot of teammates pulling for you, and if we can drag you in, if we can, I'm just pleased. I was so pleased when the Patriots finally put you into the Patriots Hall of Fame, and that was what, 5 or 6 years ago. And
that was '07, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, okay.
That was the first year they did the voting.
Oh, that's right.
When Mr. Kraft decided to let the fans vote on who goes into the Hall of Fame.
Well,
and that was the first year for that. So the fans remembered me, and they voted and put me in.
And nobody deserves it more, believe me when I tell you. And I'll tell you, the other thing that people don't realize is we ran the ball effectively, but we couldn't have run the ball effectively if we didn't have great downfield blocking. And the guys downfield, the way you stock blocked and the way you were able to shield people, it wasn't like you were just running digs and fly patterns all day. You were very involved in the offense. And man, I'll tell you.
Well, that was part of my Tennessee upbringing because I was a receiver and a running back. So they really didn't know where to play me. They played me all over the place. So I might spend half a year receiver, another half a year I'm in the backfield.
Yeah. Well, that sure helped to getting that ball downfield and some of the magic you were able to perform. I'll never forget, you stretching out and getting that pass, and that's 60 yards downfield, and Grogan had a hell of an arm. Mike Haynes was telling the story to the fans last week when we brought your name up as being our guest this week, that he'll never forget a time when Steve ran out of the pocket. You had enough training and enough sense to break off your route and get in front of him way downfield. And then Steve didn't think he could get you the ball, so he went to throw it away and threw it completely on the other side of the field. You were able to stop, make an adjustment on the ball, and caught it for a touchdown. And Groves was just trying to throw it away.
Hey, those were some good times. I remember those the days, and people don't remember, but speed was my big package. I had the speed.
No question. And it was speed that you developed as a football player. I know you ran in the 4.2, 4.3 categories on the 40-yard dash, but there's a lot of fast guys that couldn't do what you did. And the way that you trained and handled yourself, Steve Grogan, when Steve stepped into the huddle, especially when he was calling the plays, was a lot different than the plays coming in from the sideline. Because Steve would come into the huddle when he was calling his own game, and he'd say, "O-line, I need 4 yards. What do you got?" And we'd say ride 34. We'd say flow 36. Now you broke the huddle telling the guy that you were going to get him 4 yards, and so that put the accountability on your back to make it happen. And he'd say to you in the first quarter, "Can you get him on a dig? Or can you get him on a hook?" And you'd say, "Not yet. If he asked Irving Fryer that, Irving Fryer was never covered, and Irving Fryer was open all the time, according to Irving Fryer. But you had the sense to say, "Not yet." And then sometime in the second quarter, you'd step in the huddle and say, "I got him now."
Yeah. Well, that was part of my learning process, I guess. I've always been a team player. If it was there, it was there. If it wasn't, I didn't think we shouldn't waste a down trying to make something happen when it's not ready. And it took me a little while to set the defensive back up the way I wanted to set him up. And Grove was great in being able to call his own plays and check with me. And then we get up to the line of scrimmage, and all we had to do was get eye contact, and he knew we was ready. And he would check off, and boom, it happened.
I remember too, a lot of times we'd break the huddle with a play, and if a safety to your side came on a blitz, you guys had it down to the pack where everything was just side adjust, and Steve would see that that strong safety, if you were over in, in the X position or something like that, if the safety came to your side, you'd cut it off and run a slant. And it was a thing of beauty. And it was just, just because of the number of years you two guys played together for so long.
Yeah, I mean, we read each other pretty good.
Yeah, he was a great one, that one, I'll tell you. And we had him on. He came on our second episode. He's living out in Kansas now, or at Kansas City, Missouri. He claimed that since the year he moved from New England back out to Kansas City, they won a Super Bowl, that he should have got to go to their parade. That's what he was claiming.
That sounds just like it.
I know it does. I know. I don't know what else you got. What's Stanley Morgan up to these days?
Well, I'm being a papa right now. I got 5 grandkids.
Awesome.
My oldest one just got into college.
Your oldest grandchild
is going to Middle Tennessee State in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Oh my goodness! Congratulations, Papa.
Yeah. So we got her squared away. Now I got 4 more to get ready. So between them, myself, and of course, Relita had to be called.
Oh,
she
no,
wasn't gonna be called Grandma, so she's Queenie.
Queenie.
So Queenie and Papa.
Well, there's nobody other than Rolidia that deserves to be called Queenie more than her. I'll tell you that much. She is. You outkicked the coverage on that, brother.
She got it covered.
Well, that's terrific. You're living in Tennessee.
Yeah, we're living in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
This is her home. So when we were moving back and forth, I didn't wish to go back to South Carolina, so we tried Memphis, and we've been here ever since. So Memphis is home now. So I still got my mom and brother and sister that still lives in South Carolina. So I get back over there every now and then to get a chance to visit my old friends and family members that are still living there. So.
Oh, that's terrific. That's terrific. Hey, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that you had 2 stints with Raymond Berry. One as his position, as your position coach,
Right.
And then one obviously as our head football coach. And do you think that gave you an advantage? I mean, I had my second year or third year in the league, Jim Ringo came in from he was an assistant coach, a head coach around, but he was from the Green Bay Packer, Vince Lombardi era. And when he talked about this is how you block and tackle and prepare yourself and act as a pro, he was believable. He was credible. Raymond Berry had that and even more as far as I was concerned. But tell us about the impact that Raymond may have made on you in your career.
He had a big impact because there's one thing, even in today's game, you see receivers. And it is amazing to me how many receivers know exactly how to catch football. And you think it comes naturally, but it really doesn't. And you see guys hand over the wrong different type ways. And that was one of the things that I learned from Raymond was exactly how to catch football. So it made it a lot easier. And when I talk to receivers, nobody has ever taught them the correct way to catch football. Even in today's game, you will be amazed at how many receivers, and I bet there's probably 99.9% that catches the football the wrong way. So that was one of the things that I learned from Raymond. The other thing was how to read a defense. Being able to read defenses, knowing how to run your route, all that took place before the ball was snapped. And that made me a better receiver. And it so happened that happened my second year in the league when Raymond came in. And before that, it was Ray Perkins was the coach.
Good.
So I learned a lot from Raymond, and it also helped when he became the head coach. I had a little pull.
You had plenty of juice, didn't you?
I had a little pull with him being the head coach at that time. So I was pretty solid right there.
No question. There's no question about that at all. Hey, we're on with Stanley Morgan. I feel embarrassed that I have to introduce you, but I got to thinking after the first couple of episodes that I ought to at least tell folks and remind them who we're talking to, because let's face it, we both look a little bit different than we did when we were playing football. Yeah. And when we were playing football, we had helmets and face masks on, so not everybody just saw our pictures in the program. And you look just about the same, but I'm a little more gray-headed. So I want to remind folks that we're on with Stanley Morgan here, and I really want to invite the viewers, if they have any questions of Stanley, to please use the chat facility in Facebook Live and fire us off some questions. I get those fed on this side, and I'm sure that Stanley would be more than happy to answer any of your questions. So if you have some, make sure that you do it. And let's not forget that the Sullivan Group is sponsoring Stanley being on here with us. John Andrioli, who's the president of the Sullivan Group, and they've been covering the Patriots alumni's insurance needs for the last 6 or 7 years, and we're really proud to be partners with them too, especially in our Football for You program that we take out. We haven't been able to do it this year, Stanley, with this whole COVID mess and all of that kind of stuff. How have you have your family been dealing with all of this stuff?
Well, we've been diligent. We stay at home. My wife and I probably talk more this year than we have. Well, we've been married now 45 years.
Oh my! Congratulations.
So we probably talk more this year than we have in 44 plus years.
Well, you're kind of forced to, weren't you?
So we having a good time. We get to see our grandkids, and we get to, like I said, spend time together. We're not outgoing people. We're not doing any traveling. So we're a stay-at-home couple right now, enjoying each other and having a good time.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm hoping that all of your family have not been affected negatively by all of this. So
everybody's been good up to this point. Everybody's been good. Just put my mom on the prayer list for me. She was, she lived by herself. That she was staying by herself. That she had a panic attack, and she had a panic attack, and she had a next door neighbor to take her to the hospital, and then long thing out, she found out she had lung cancer.
Oh my!
So she's doing chemo right now and doing real good with it.
Okay.
So
we will.
I haven't been able to get over there to see her yet because of this.
Right.
Hopefully, in the next month or so, when it settles down a little bit, I'll be able to get out and go spend some time with her.
Well, she just hit my prayer list. How about that?
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I heard from my mother yesterday. The matron of our family just turned 92 years old. She's living on her own. In fact, she went to DMV to renew her driver's license, and they gave her a renewal license, and it expires on her 100th birthday.
And I tell you what, I have an uncle that next month he's going to be 100 years old, and he gets around. He talks. I talk to him on the telephone. You can't tell he's that old.
Right.
He's doing unbelievable.
Yeah. Speaking of centuries, Steve Nelson just traveled out to Anoka, Minnesota, and his father just turned 100 this week.
Oh, wow.
Coach Nelson. He was, in fact, Steve Nelson's father was one of the, he stormed the beach in Normandy. He was on Omaha Beach.
And I met him a couple times.
He used to come to the stadium a lot.
Games,
you bet.
Yeah, I got a chance to meet him a couple times.
Well, we got a couple of questions here for you, Stan.
Okay.
Let's see. Who's the best wide receiver in the game today? Your opinion.
Today's game, I would have to go with the kid in New Orleans.
Oh yeah.
I can't think of
I'd
his
get
name
there
right
too,
now,
but I know you mean.
He set a record last year with 160 catches.
Yes.
Yeah. I would put him at the top of that list right now. There's quite a few receivers out there that are playing pretty good.
None of them like speed like you got. That Tyreek Hill from Kansas City.
From Kansas City.
Yeah, he's got a rank up there.
He's in that same speed class.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Yep. Let's see what else got here. You've been able to watch the Patriots this year, and if you have, what do you think of Cam Newton leading the team so far?
I tell you what, I was surprised. He came out his first in both of the games. Even in the one that they lost, he played good.
Yeah.
I think he's adapting well. He's finding the correct receivers. Ellerman, you just can't say enough about that young man. He's going to probably be, when he finishes, he's going to be the number one receiver in Patriot history.
No question.
If he's not already.
Yeah.
So I like the offense that they're running right now. I think the other plus that he gives them is that Cam can run the football, and he's a big boy.
Oh, he's huge.
I love the connection that he has right now with the receivers.
Yeah.
I think he's doing I thought this would be more in the middle of the season, but right now he's playing like he's been there for a while.
Well, and especially given that they had no training camp and they had no preseason games at all to try to get his hands around this thing. So
exactly. So that's a big plus.
I think they'll do just fine. Who's the best player you ever played with? Who's the best player that you ever played with? Present company accepted. You don't have to mention my name.
I'll say the ones that actually made me a better receiver is Mike Haynes. Yeah. Mike and Raymond Claiborne. Going against those guys in practice, you couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for game time. It was literally a piece of cake.
Right.
But Mike and Raymond Claiborne made me a better receiver.
Yeah.
And then when we got Harold Jackson with his knowledge, I had great people around me on both sides, offense and defense.
Yeah, no question.
So me not being open like I am, I was able to gather information from those guys and applied it to my game, and it made me a better receiver.
Yeah, no question. You know, people think we just used to show up on Sundays and play football games. I'm telling you, we had tougher practices than we had ever a football game. I remember thinking that distinctly. You know, and you know, no question. And to go against, you know, like for me, it was the guys in the middle and Steve Nelson. You know, and having to get to him and get that blocked, and you couldn't. Certainly makes you a better player if you practice the way you're supposed to practice. And
Exactly.
And that's what we did. No question makes you a good player like that. What was your favorite moment playing in Foxborough? What's your favorite memory of Foxborough?
I'm going to tell you a little story, and it involves your partner, John Hammond. You're not going to believe this, but I don't know if you remember, but we always had a little boom box in the locker room. The receivers did, and that was me, Darryl, at that time. We had our little music, and John was the type of guy that, that he had to get ready to go out and play a football game. We jump around, laughing, dancing, having a good time. It just didn't sit well with John. And I remember this one particular game, John had really gotten a little irritated with us as receivers, and I think it was against the Miami Dolphins. We opened up with them in Foxborough. And the first play of the game was that Flow 136 510, if you remember that.
I do.
And it was probably about a 60 or 70-yard pass. I mean, Grogan dropped back. I ran the coverage, caught the ball for a touchdown. John was so excited, he came over on the sideline and said, "You can play any music you want to. You just keep doing that shit right there." And that was one story that I have never forgotten, but we pulled John over to the dark side.
Apparently. Boy, he used to start getting his game face on about Wednesday, and by the time Saturday and game time rolled around, he was ornery. He was ready to play football. But,
oh yeah.
But I'm glad that you guys do anything you.
That was good.
Well, he couldn't. Yeah, he can't argue against success, and if that made you successful, so be it, right?
So be it. Yeah. So like I said, we pulled John over to the dark side. He believed in the receivers, and it was quite a few games that we were one play and out.
Yep. I do remember that. We'd sit on this. We'd go back over the bench and say, "Oh, the hell of a drive."
Yeah, well,
I used to love one-play drives. That was okay with me too. Like I said.
Yeah.
Yep. Stanley, this has been. Oh, I think we got one more question coming up here. This is a tough question to answer. Other than Foxborough, what stadium did you like playing in?
Well, believe it or not, I love Miami. I love because it was on grass.
Yeah.
It was always nice when we got down there. I think we might have played in one season, I think, when the weather was bad. Maybe that was for the AFC Championship.
It was the AFC Championship game. It rained. It rained hard the day before.
It rained big time.
Yeah.
But other than that, that was a great place to go. You were going to have good weather, and we always played them, I think, in December. It was either November or December when we always went to Miami, and like I said, there was great weather.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Probably another place that I enjoyed was when we played in Houston at the Astrodome. Being as small as I was, the artificial turf was great for me because I got faster.
You got faster?
I got faster on the artificial turf.
On that AstroTurf?
And it didn't hurt my legs the way it did the big guys because that wasn't nothing but concrete we was actually playing on. And you think of that stadium in Foxborough at the time.
Yeah.
That was straight up concrete, and then when it got cold, it was rough.
Oh, frozen.
Yes.
Let's see. Do you think your yards per catch would be a lot higher than 19.2? Why do you got to have it higher than 19.2? It's already an NFL record. Anyway, if you had played with the benefit of the modern rules to protect wide receivers at the line of scrimmage and downfield like in today's game? They have changed the rules.
I don't know. I think in today's game, they throw the ball, but they don't throw it deep as much as we did. You know, our play action pass, because of our running game, was probably the tops in the league, because every defense that came in there knew they could not win a ball game if they couldn't stop the run.
Hmm.
If they couldn't stop our running game, they had no chance of winning. And so our play action game was very good at that time. And now in today's game, they are probably using the passing game to set up the run. If you can catch my drift.
No, I get it. Yeah.
You know, they're using those short passing games to actually set up the running game.
Yeah, get those linebackers falling out a little bit.
Yeah, you know, and it wasn't long before we were using 3 and 4 receivers on the football field at a time. And now, you know, to go into a game and you have a 5 receiver package, that's nothing new now.
Right.
Everybody's doing that.
Right.
And in today's game, if you can't throw the football, you can't win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you gonna have to outscore the people now.
That's what it seems, doesn't it?
And you just can't go in with a 80% run, 20% pass ratio. You know, you almost talking maybe a 60-40 with the pass, 60%.
Right. Right.
So the game has really changed, and I think today's game is more for the athletes. You know, when we were playing, there were probably a handful of teams that had some receivers that you could say they were athletic. You know, they could run, they could go up, they could jump, they could get the football. Now, if you don't have that player on the team, you're not going anywhere.
Right. Right. No question. Stanley, this has been great, and I have used probably more time than Rolidia wanted me to have with you. Maybe she wants you back doing some chores around the house or something. But anyway, you know there's always a home for you guys up here in New England, and I'd love to see you more. Maybe when this all gets back to normal again and you get to travel, love to have you guys up here. We've got lots of stuff going on with the alumni. And
no, we'll be up there because she loves to travel, and believe it or not, she watched more Patriots games than I do. She is a football fan now, so when football games on, we go up to Tennessee to watch the football game. She goes to the game, and I go play a little golf.
There you go. Perfect. Sounds like a marriage made in heaven.
I tell you what, you can't beat it.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, I'll let you go now, and I sure appreciate you being here with us today, Stanley Morgan, and I appreciate John Andrioli and the Sullivan Group of sponsoring you with us today. This is our 4th episode. Next week, stay tuned. Let's see, who do we have next week?
I think is it Sam?
I think it might be Sam. Well, I can't.
I think it's Sam.
I think it's Sam Cunningham. I do too.
I think we got Sam next week.
Yep, that's going to be fun as well. It's
Yeah.
I think this is more fun for me than it is for the fans watching, because I miss you guys. I feel like we're back in that locker room and reminiscing and all that kind of stuff. So anyway,
we made a lot. We have a lot of memories, and we go back a long way. You think about it. My 13 years in New England, we were together the whole time.
Yep. I retired in '88, so I made 11 years with you. And
and you know, at that time, our families, we spent more time together as a family than we did as individuals.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. You know that there wasn't free agency then, so people weren't playing out their contract and then packing up and moving somewhere. You know, the Hannahs, the Nelsons, you guys, Mosi, the Hasselbecks, the Grogans, so
yeah. I mean, we were a big family.
Yeah.
We were a community.
No
believe
question.
it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No question. Well, you always got a home up here, brother. I love you to death, and give Rolidi a big hug for me, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you, Pete, and I enjoyed it, and thank the Sullivans for the invitation.
I sure will. Thank you very much.
Right.
Stanley Morgan.